Greetings, friend, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome back to Based and Biased. I try to take information and make it digestible for people who don't have a lot of time to dig deep into what's going on with the different things in our world. There are a lot of different things, and we have complicated situations throughout right now. Today, I'm going to talk about the World Economic Forum and some of what their plans are for the future with AI, technology, and data in general. This is very important because it really does affect all of us. And if you're not familiar with the World Economic Forum, they are a corporate private mixture. They try to use all forces that are there to control people and to take control of the behaviors of the people in the world. So I want to start off with a clip from Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, I don't watch him all the time. I have watched him in the past, and I like Joe Rogan because he's honest. I don't have to agree with somebody to enjoy listening to them or debating them, but as long as you're honest, that's what matters to me. But Joe Rogan's even waking up to what's going on in the world, and I just want to play the short clip for you right now.
Say that about ending the lockdowns and keeping businesses.
Once quote though on his, you'll see it. Our teams are now embedded in governments around the world. That's actually what they wrote.
Yes.
And the video is 2 minutes. I didn't play all of it. It's what he says.
But what he's saying there sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Figuring out on strategic ways to end the lockdown easily.
No,
that
not
makes
the,
sense.
Not the end of the lockdown. No.
Well, didn't he say that?
Yeah. Keep in mind, Tony Blair is the one who's been advocating for vaccine passports, digital identification through COVID, and all of these measures.
But didn't they say that about ending the lockdowns and keeping businesses?
Once those measures are in place. Right, so he's even in the UK. His stance has been, yeah, we're going to get out of it, but you have to have digital ID, and you have to have.
So
during the war,
this is going to introduce the social credit score system.
Right. So, all of that came from your question, which is, regardless of intention, how do people do that infiltration from within? It's not just Twitter. So back to the psychological operations. It's also embedding people in government who are subscribed to this agenda. Yeah, and the agenda of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum is the same as the agenda of Tony Blair in this regard. They call it on their own website, they call it the Great Reset. That's what they say themselves.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing to do, openly. Why do you think they openly discuss it that way? And openly, because the Great Reset has always been this gigantic conspiracy theory among the online folks. Like, this is all part of the Great Reset. Well, when he wrote a fucking book called The Great Reset, you're like, hey, man, shouldn't you be hiding this?
And in 2017 at Harvard, he's saying, we're going to basically, all of these world leaders will penetrate their cabinets with our young global leaders. He's open about this. He's open. Blair's open. During the Iraq War, Blair tried to bring in ID cards in Britain. He failed. Now he's back. And he's trying to bring in digital ID during COVID. Right, so they're open about it.
So this is going to be this never-ending process to slowly move the goalposts
towards more and more authoritarianism, checkpoint society. It's all there. They told us this.
People have to realize this, right? This is important.
Yeah.
So it's important to note what they were talking about there. And sorry for the language. I emailed Joe Rogan, asked him to kind of tone down the language. I don't think he got my email, though. Never responded. But anyways, the World Economic Forum, together with all these other countries, are trying to start these vaccine passports. Now, the vaccine passports are not all about vaccines. You have to look beyond the vaccine. It's all about your digital identity. They want to put you down into basically a digital identity that has a QR code, and they can tell anything about what you're doing. And they can really learn a lot from you. And I'm going to show you right now how they do that. All right, here is the behavioral sciences section of the strategic intelligence part of the World Economic Forum website. And this over here is talking about behavioral sciences, technology, digitization, and behavior. And I just wanted to bring this up briefly because this ties into the data that we're talking about and what they can do with that data and what they want to do with that data, I guess. And they bring up here, this is about, human interaction with enriched technology, or human interaction being enriched with technology enabled behavioral insights. So they can track what you do, and they can see what your normal movements are, and they can kind of use these data points to figure out what makes you tick. And then they can try to use those data points eventually nudge you in certain ways, and that's where this changing behavior for sustainability and behavior and governance that talks a lot about those little nudges. But here, it's talking about what they can do with this technology. In Pokemon Go, they bring up as an example, and they bring it up as an example, saying that it managed to get millions of people off of the couch and outside, even just for a little while. It was more than that. They gave unapologetically all of their data to the CIA and NSA, and in turn, they used all that data to create algorithms and use artificial intelligence to eventually use all of that to kind of piece together how they can use this data to control people. And down here, they talk about, will we be autonomous if all of the data, or if all of the technology is making the decisions for us? And that's a good question. Do you want an algorithm to just run your life? Because the algorithm can make better decisions than you can about your own life. And they mentioned down here, well, I'll bring this up first. They did a study in 2013, or an academic paper. They said artificial intelligence can predict with a high degree of accuracy private traits like sexual orientation or political and religious views from just a few Facebook likes. And it's kind of like, it might sound, oh wow, that's new, but it's like, no crap. If you just go and if somebody's clicking on all Biden positive posts, you probably know their political views, correct? Same with, if it was the other way around. But, they say it can be alarming because some governments will punish people for being homosexual or for certain political beliefs, kind of like the United States. And down at the bottom, they talk about how they can look through medical records, use these algorithms, and they can figure out the likelihood that a patient will suffer a heart attack, and that potentially make it easier to educate at-risk populations about precautionary measures. Now, how far can they go with these precautionary measures? Because if you have a public-run healthcare system, they can make the decisions that are best for you, like what you eat or how much you eat. And we might find this ridiculous, but I can definitely see it. We've given so much power to these other entities, such as the healthcare system, and they're making rules that subvert the Constitution and the lawmaking process. They can just make a regulation out of nowhere, and you have to follow it, or in the case of healthcare system, you won't get any healthcare. You either follow our rules or you don't get healthcare. And that's why I don't understand people who are against vaccine mandates but still are going for, they want public healthcare. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because then who controls your healthcare and what healthcare you get? People who don't care about you, that's who. And the way it works now, it's a broken system, and there was a lot of greedy and corrupt people in the system. But I definitely do not want the government to start making decisions on what I need to do with my own body. But they think it's normal now. And the thing is, with these vaccine mandates, it's not about the vaccines. It's not about getting a vaccine. It's about creating a digital identity. It's not. They want everyone to have the QR codes. They want everyone to have a digital passport. And this is the end game of that. They just use the vaccine as a way to convince so many people to actually buy into it. But we'll see. A lot of countries are fighting that right now, and we need to support them.
Now, finally, I want to show you just a few clips from a presentation that was done in 2018 at the World Economic Forum. And this guy is going to describe what we can do with data, what
the elites can do with data and what he thinks our future looks like with the new AI technology and the human technology combination. Take a look at this.
So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. In ancient times, there is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually, we are gaining the ability to hack human beings. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. Not data about what I buy or where I go, but data about what is happening inside my body and inside my brain. Once we have algorithms that can understand me better than I understand myself, they could predict my desires, manipulate my emotions, and even take decisions on my behalf. And if we are not careful, the outcome might be the rise of digital dictatorships. In the 20th century, but control of data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. Understanding. You can really summarize 150 years of biological research since Charles Darwin in 3 words. Organisms are algorithms. This is the big insight of the modern life sciences. That organisms, whether viruses or bananas or humans, they are really just biochemical algorithms. And we are learning how to decipher these algorithms. Now, so who should own the data? I frankly don't know. I think the discussion has just begun. Most people, when they hear the talk about regulating data, they think about privacy, about shopping, about companies, corporations that know where I go and what I buy. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are much more important things at stake. So the discussion has hardly begun, and we cannot expect instant answers. We had better call upon our scientists, our philosophers, our lawyers, and even our poets, or especially our poets, to turn their attention to this big question. How do you regulate the ownership of data? The future, not just of humanity, but the future of life itself, may depend on the answer to this question. Thank you.
Now, I want you to know that this presentation was done about 4 years ago in 2018. And I want you to think about how much has changed since 2018. And isn't it convenient that just a few years after they were talking about what they can do with all this data and how they control people with this data, they start trying to mandate vaccine passports and digital identity. So I think watching this and reading some of what they have on their website shows you why they are doing the things they're doing and why these certain leaders in different countries are cracking down on their citizens. So please continue to watch my videos. Please subscribe. I'm going to dig into this and some other things going on in our current world right now. And as always, thank you for watching. Peace be with you.